Thanks for tuning in to the Charles Novell School of Music podcast, The Best Day Yet. Here you'll find tips, insight, and information to help your music and your ministry succeed. Whether you're a singer, a musician, or a songwriter, we want to help you where you are, but we also want to help you get to where you want to go. We believe that our talents are God's gift to us, but what we do with those are our gift back to God. Yesterday's information is important, but what we can learn today will make this the best day yet. Hey everybody, Rob Novell here. Wanted to take just a second to tell you about our next upcoming CNS event. We will have a weekend regional session in Central Florida, February 9th and 10th. Come study vocal, instrumental, songwriting, and so much more. To register and for more information, visit us at www.cnsmusic.com. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Charles Novell School of Music CNS podcast, The Best Day Yet. Thank you so much for tuning in, taking time out of your schedule to come in and see what it is that we're talking about this week. And really excited about our topic today. And I'll share a little bit more on that in a minute, but I'm even more excited about our guest. We have one of our instructors from our staff at CNS, a vital part to our piano faculty at the Charles Novell School of Music. And a couple things there. All you have to do is look at our logo. We take the piano kind of serious around here. The C in the CNS logo is a piano. My dad was known as a pianist, and we have had some amazing faculty through the years. I'll just started with my dad and different people like Carol Hill and Gary Prim and Jeannie Camerons that I think of. And then this brings us to our guest today. In 1982, we met a young guy named Jeff Stice, and he came in and absolutely very quickly made an impact on our school and made an impact on the Novell family. And Jeff became a big brother to me, and we spent 40 years together making music and memories and having fun. And I'll never forget this one particular day that Jeff called me and said, "Robbie, when we need another piano staff member, I have got the lady." He said, I've got a student, and Robbie, she blows my mind. She sits down, and I'm supposed to be teaching her, and she starts playing. I'm like, whoa, what'd you just do there? Show me what you just played. He said, "Robbie, this lady is phenomenal." So we followed his lead. Her and I talked, and we brought her on the staff. And I'm talking about Dana Simpson. She's just a precious gift to our school. Dana, thank you for being here today. And more importantly than that, thank you for being part of the Charles Novell School of Music.
Thank you for having me. I'm blessed every day to have the experience to be with the Charles Novell School of Music family. I feel like I'm a part of that family now. And I'm thankful to Jeff, my mentor, to forward me, to have the opportunity to get to meet you and become part of your family, and to enjoy experiencing what God has for me in this, the path that He laid out for my life, and the opportunity to get to meet people across the United States, and to be able to spend time with people, helping them to realize their potential in Christ when it comes to the gift that God has given them.
You know, I grew up, my mom's an amazing cook. Both my grandmothers were amazing cooks. I have experienced some really good holiday meals. You know me, I love my Cincinnati style Skyline chili. I absolutely love that. I've had some great desserts. Sometimes my sports teams have won and made me happy and excited. But where I'm heading with this, Dana, there's no bigger reward than being a teacher and watching people. Those moments that things click, those moments that they start to get it, the moments they start to understand, the moments that it changes from notes or on a page to music. And when you hear that person there, to me, as a teacher, there's nothing more rewarding than that. And full transparency here, and I say that almost weekly on this podcast, you may need to call the police and put a restraining order out on me because I Facebook stalk you and I see recitals and I see what you do. And I absolutely love your approach because I love when when a student connects with a teacher, that speaks wonders about that teacher. So have enjoyed seeing that. Now that brings us to where we are today. I love your post, and you post different things that are funny from that are musically related, and a lot of times theory driven. So recently, you put a post up, and it was an article, and I read it, and man, I just really, really, not that I don't connect with everything you post, but this one really just hit me to the point that I literally finished reading it and immediately text you and said, Dana, I love that article. Hey, would you be a guest on the Best Day Yet podcast? And could we kind of talk this article out and talk about some topics with this with this article? So that's what we're here to do today. And, I don't know yet how I'll title this, but it may be as simple as there's three things we're going to talk today. We're going to talk technique. We're going to talk the importance of that. We're going to talk memorization and maybe some tips and tricks and skills, because I get asked that all the time. Man, how do I memorize? That's a struggle for me, Dana. But then the final thing we're going to talk about is overcoming the fear of performance. Let's start with that first topic. So technique. How important is technique to you? Two-part question. As a player and as a teacher?
As a player, it's paramount for me to be able to master my hands instead of them mastering me, to be able to utilize the things that my teacher is teaching me, so that I can command the keyboard. For my students, mastering technique is paramount to the confidence level that they have when they play. In my experience with taking sessions since I was 5, my first classical teacher, her name was Miss Mary Jo Cummins, put me in the A Dozen a Day books.
Yeah.
So part of my rehearsal time at 5 years old was repping out sections of those books. So when God called me to teach at 18, I continued in that same vein, with the exception of changing to Hanon. Equal finger strength is paramount to the successful execution of anything one would want to play on the keys. Not only does the act of doing Hanon as a warm-up help your fingers get ready, it can also, if you are focused, increase your accessibility with utilizing chords, arpeggios, and single finger runs in both hands. Curving your fingers and playing the tips will enhance the ability to control the keys instead of them controlling you. Another advantage of using Hanon will wake up your brain, causing you to think in a different way, as it is a scientific fact that learning how to play an instrument, preferably the piano in my case, will do many things for the brain. I have students that are ages 3 to 75 that do these exercises. Students that are in the latter side of those ages who have arthritis has commented many times on how much it helps to relieve the pain in their hands and keeps their brain quickened and focused. It's easy to sit after a bit of rehearsing these exercises and get complacent, if the focus is not there to actually do the work that needs to happen to become agile at the keys. Going to different skill sets will be longer. So it all begins with consistent, purposeful planning, then execution each day, or at the very least 4 days a week. A strategy to walk slowly through what I've chosen with my students and myself, Hanons, to create equal strength in both hands. The thing is, one does not have to do complicated warm-ups to accomplish the goal, of equal strength in each hand. Steady, purposeful focus of keeping your fingers curved, playing on the tips of your fingers. Then as you increase your ability, put a metronome to it. And then speed always comes at the end, okay? So you can do that with your first Hanon for several weeks or even months before you move on. The object is, to me, not to go so fast. Slow and steady is much better than fast and wrong. Repetition is key. patience with yourself is so very important. The desire is equally as important. Making the time in your everyday planner to do this. And I have my planner here. And so I write in rehearsal time for myself every day to spend time at the keys. And to me, I liken that to being on the potter's wheel. God has formed us unto, like, say, a pitcher that you would pour juice or milk out of, or tea, in my case, Southern Gospel homemade tea. I love it with a lot of sugar. But the handle of that pitcher should be formed to God's hand, not mine. So when I get on the potter's wheel for piano and sit at that stool and work and increase the patience with myself and allow God to form me and then pour into me so that he can, with his hand, pour out of me, that is, to me, the most important thing. Because in my life, my most important aspect of living is to walk in God's path every day of my life. I've been taking sessions since I was 5, but with a classical teacher. But Mama, in utero, and up until I was 5, sat and showed me many times how to play things, and by ear. Mama doesn't read music, but she showed me how to play by ear. I still have a teacher that lives over in the Carolinas, and I spend time with her in session each week. So with regards to warm up, keeping one's chops up are vital to the theory health. Taking time to work through theory books with a teacher who will check your work will help your skill set increase. As is, like with the Bible, it's consistent learning mode that I always will be in with theory. It's daunting for me because I was a girl who took, like I said, from Mama all by ear until I was 5. So my natural inclination is to hear everything first, then sit down and pick something out, and then make my mind do the thinking part of the work and learning how to read the rhythms, the notes on the staff, and the theory of how it all works together. I'm working on arranging songs that are really dear to my heart now. By sitting down, I'll play the song, then I'll arrange the song. Then I take the time, the thinking part, which is not so much fun for most of us ear people, but write it down on the staff to help me increase my knowledge of theory. And then the next important thing that I do is scales and friends. That's what I call them, scales and friends. Correctly playing each scale is so important to our finger strength. Mastering that techniques, finger knowledge, and the ability to peruse the keys as I want to and not let them control me. It helps me to be more confident in what I do. And the friends part of this is playing the chord inversions, root, first, second, and third. They're all, the 4 notes, when there are 4 notes are involved in the chord. So I can easily access the tools that I'm putting in my toolbox as I'm on the potter's wheel. So when I hear something or I feel something, when I'm in the middle of playing, I can just pull that tool out and use it with confidence because I've sat down at mastering the technique on the piano. I still do that because I'm right hand dominant and my left hand is not as fun to want to play those chord inversions and things. But it's important so that my playing, I like a fullness when I play. The genres of music I normally play are Southern Gospel. I do teach classical and jazz and Southern Gospel and, country, whatever, people bring in that they want to learn, or that the parents want to learn. But all of that involved the Hannons, the scales, the friends, learning the extended chords, to access those when I want to, not to feel uncomfortable when I'm in the middle of playing. Then delving deeper by adding, the relative minor scales and the extended chords. So mastering technique is so vitally important to our piano health, to be able to confidently play anything. Take the time to do it. It will benefit you, and you won't be mad at yourself because you spent time doing that, because
Right.
it's going to make you a better player all the way around.
Wow. If this mic wasn't connected, I would drop it because you just gave us so much wealth of knowledge, and just in that first opening section, and yeah, a couple things that you said that I want to back up on because I loved how you said it. You said consistent and purposeful, and man, I'm big on deliberate practice. When I grew up, my dad was my main teacher, but I shared with you and Shannon the other day. My sister's 2 years older than me, and my lessons would start by me meeting my sister in the doorway on her way out of her lesson, and she'd be in tears. Dad was a little old school in his approach with us, and she couldn't handle daddy raising his voice to her, and for whatever reason, I know now it was a call on my life at an early age. I was able to distinguish dad from piano teacher, and I was so hungry for it. Yeah, there were some moments of intense fellowship during some of those lessons, but
Yes.
but I handled it a little better. So she quit, and so I think he saw that, recognized that call on my life. So he got me with an outside teacher, and I mentioned you and Shannon the other day. She looked like Yoda, and when I say that, literally, she had a green hue to her skin. She was this just short little old lady, and she sat 3 feet from the piano. And the reason I know that is every time I messed up, she'd smack my hand with the yardstick. I mean, could you imagine us doing that to one of our students in 2024? We might as well
No, we'd get
walk to the door and hold our hands out waiting for the free
with
bracelets,
bracelets. Yeah,
right?
the
Uh,
bracelets. Yeah.
but deliberate practice, consistent and purposeful. So then when I was in from my freshman year in high school through my senior year, I studied every Tuesday night and some Saturdays at the college prep department at University of Cincinnati College CCN, the Conservatory of Music. And there was a teacher there that told me, he said, Robbie, I would rather hear it slow and together than you trying to play it up to tempo and it be the train wreck that you just played me. So start it again, play it slow, and think. And so, that's consistent, that's purposeful, that's deliberate practice, that's slow and steady. So, man, I loved all of that because I relate to that, and I share that with my students. Do your students fight you over technique?
Yes.
Yeah,
In an unassuming way. They'll get involved in doing Hannah number one, for example,
right,
which is in and of itself not that big of a deal. Hannah's, let me interject two things here. Hannah's, it's a pattern. So the way that I go about saying, I need you to do this so that this fourth finger can get where it should be with
right,
regards to the rest of them is doing this pattern. And we're going to do it 2 octaves ascending, 2 octaves descending. And a lot of times they'll sit there and mindlessly do it. And if they're not focused, I'll take a pencil. I will take a pencil and I'll just kind of pull their hand up just a little bit. And I'll say, okay, play on the curves, play on the tips, curve those fingers. Feel like there's an egg, a raw egg right there. And if you drop it, it's going to get all over your pant leg, and just play on the tips of your fingers and but be methodical about what you're doing when you're warming up. Be methodical about looking up at the scale sheets that I have created that are huge, that have finger numbers over the top and over the bottom. Look up and make sure that you're playing correctly the finger numbers so that you can play anything you want to play, whether it's Tchaikovsky or whether it's, um, any genre of music. You want to be able to the economy of movement when I play is very important. When I'm teaching somebody how to play something like, I don't know, Amazing Grace or At Calvary or, some of the songbook songs, when I'm teaching the chords and the chord inversions, that's economy and movement to get to where I want them to go, leaving the melody in the 5 finger. Because in a lot of the rural churches that our surrounding being out here in Scottsville, Kentucky. The person that's listening for the note, they're listening for that five finger to play them the melody. If they're not as familiar with the song, or if their tone abilities are not skillful enough to just be able to hear it in their head. So yeah, I get that, and I have to do a lot, especially with my babies, and I mean that like my 2-year-olds that I teach rabbit ear C to. I had a little Gwyneth. She had her hair in a pony on top of her head. Walked up with her little velvet dress, white socks, and black patent leather shoes, and we did our piano lesson at the recital. And we got up and we said all over the keys, rabbit ear C, rabbit ear C. And I was having her do 3, 2, 1, already getting her to understand we're going to use more than one finger to play with. And we're going to have our hand like this over the keys. And she's doing it. You know, my grandchild is another one that's 2 that's doing it. The other thing I want to interject with regard to the question you asked me is write it down. I have a journal page for every student that I have. I'm showing this to Rob so you can see. When I'm FaceTiming my students in Virginia or in Pennsylvania, I send a picture of what I write down to them, explaining to them exactly what I want them to do every day. So at the bottom, I'll say day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and this is what you're to do. When you do that this many amount of times, then go to the next thing. Then when you get done, get up. But when you write down, I have a journal for my own with my teacher, because it makes me accountable to sit down and in some situations, my students will take a pencil and just check mark everything off. And the act of doing that gives you confidence. Oh gosh, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. So when you get up from the piano, there's a level of confidence that has come up higher because you've taken the time to do what it is that I'm holding you accountable to do. And I do that for my own self with my teacher, because if I make myself accountable to sit down and get on the potter's wheel and purposefully rehearse everything that we've talked about, then when I get up, I feel like I've not wasted my time. I feel like that I have gained ground in my skill set and in the theory portion of what it is that I'm trying to do.
So right there, you just let the cat out of the bag. You got the recipe to your secret sauce. The reason you're an effective teacher is because you teach to the point that you hold yourself accountable and making sure that the students understand what it is that they need to be working on. So when you and I do a similar thing that I learned from my dad. I think when I asked you about students fighting you, you know, we know those teachers that, oh, Dana, no, I'm not going to go there. That'll get me in trouble. I'm not. Or offline.
Okay.
Save that for
I look forward to hearing that.
But there are teachers who it's just, they're not going to explain things. They're just going to say things. Right. And I think it's vitally important. So I know we have teachers that listen to this podcast. If you want to start seeing a more successful connection between you and your students, get more involved with your students. Let them know.
Oh, yes.
I don't tell any of my students. I explain to them why I'm asking them to do something. I look at technique this way, and then we're going to move on to memory. I use the whole ATM example. And I'll ask the students, how's an ATM work? Well, you walk up to it, you put your card in, and you get your money out. I'm like, well, you're half right. How do you get your money out? Well, you got to know your password. Well, what do you do before the password? Well, I told you got to stick the card in. I'm like, no, here's the thing. You don't make a withdrawal until you've made a deposit. So technique is depositing into your music. So when you get into a creative session and you're practicing, man, I can't tell you how many times, Dana, a lick, a fill, a cadenza, intro, and ending in the middle of a creative session for me has been, wow, that scale, that arpeggio, that exercise, let's use it here. So that whole
I,
deposit, yes.
I want to say this, and you we're talking about transparency. I have videos, precious videos of Jeff's hands on my phone because he would sit and play, and I'd say, "Stop! I got to video that. I got to make a recording of that so that I can go back later."
Right.
And I have a lot of my adult students and my teenage students will say, text me back, "Okay, I got them stuck here. Can you send me a video?" Sure, I can. So I'll sit down and I'll have B come up behind me because I just now got this boom stand over here. Have B come up behind me and hold the camera over the top of my hands while I'm doing this video. And it's a short video, but that video helps to dispel the frustration that a student has in the middle of their sessioning, between their sessioning week and they're getting on the potter's wheel. I have one student that, and I do my own teacher, I audio everything that we do so that when I get done with that session with her, I go back and I listen and I pick up things there was so much that was happening inside the session. I can go back and pick up nuggets of information that will help me be more creative, that will help me achieve a lick or a run or a chord or something that she explained that I can understand. So as a teacher, I write for my students a lot. I write arrangements a lot for my students. And then we talk about it. And I'll tell them, I am not telling you to do something that I'm not doing myself. And then this past week, I had a student look at me and she was like, "Oh, that's just a first inversion." I'm like, the light came on. So the connection with Scales and Friends came into this student's path because she connected what I'm trying to do over here, like making that deposit you're talking about. Right. She connected that deposit inside of a song that she was working on, which absolutely thrilled my soul, because that equipping the saints is one of the things that God called me to do when I was 18. And that is equipping the saints. When when a student connects everything together and then applies that in their own playing, there's no greater reward for me as a teacher other than the fact that that student can sit down and do what we're about to talk about a little bit in our next section. And I'd like to get to that whenever you get ready. I definitely want to talk about that a little.
Yes, let's talk memory. And I've got paper and pen ready because this is a struggle for me. I'm just going to kind of read what the Lord kind of placed in my spirit as I was sitting here writing. I like to write things. When I write it, I think I make a lot more sense than shooting from the hip when I write it. Just to be able to sit down and play a piece of music, whatever the genre happens to be, is a safe haven for me in times of trouble, happiness, sadness, and most of all, worship with the Lord in my secret place. Worship happens many times when I'm rehearsing, feeling the closeness to the Lord. This is when I'm truly giving back the gifts that He's bestowed to me. Yes, being able to do what just happened yesterday is a part of the path that God laid out for my life. We get to our little church we attend. Everybody is waving us up to the impromptu country choir. And as we are seated, the song leader comes over and says, "Do you and B have a song today?" Well, B had already told me I was going to be the one today if we were asked a few days ago. While we were watching football, of all things, this song just came to my heart when he reached down his hand for me. Okay. Now, my mama played and sang this song as I was growing up, so it was already in my repertoire of singing, but it'd been a bit since I had played it. So I came up to the loft before we left for church and ran over, the song to make certain I had it pitched right for me to sing. We get to church, I sing the song a bit into the service, and then the service topic was, of all things, forgiveness. So I believe God poured out of this vessel yesterday at the right time in the right place. None of what I sang was done by my hand.
It was done by God's hand on the handle of the vessel that he made. Now, all of that to say, memorizing music is another important facet of playing piano. If I have mama's fudge and cram it all in my mouth at once, swallowing painfully in a bit, there comes a stomach ache or something worse could possibly happen. But if I take one bite of my mama's fudge that I get only once a year at a time, enjoy the texture, enjoy the taste of each bite. I eat slowly the piece of fudge. I have a wonderful, memorable experience from my childhood that I still thankfully get the opportunity to enjoy once a year. So for me, the key to memorization is taking small sections of a piece of music at a time, digesting that one phrase, allowing the muscle memory to develop with, yes, repetition, and then only one thing, adding the next measure or just the next phrase, and repeating that process helps me to accomplish a difficult piece of music or an easy piece of music that I'm just all nerved up about playing in public. If, however, you experience this scenario is rather frustrating, once I've worked on a piece in college, one measure I worked on, it was like 4 hours alone, one measure, just to get it under my fingers, if you will. Right. I accomplished the 8-page piece of music. I performed it for jury and actually got an A in the class. Then I started playing that song less and less. Well, then, just like everything else, I know it's cliche, but, if you use it, you'll keep it. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. And I did. So with songs I'm determined to get in my long-term memory of ears and hands, I'll play them a couple of times each week. And this is how I can just relax and play a bit. Taking small sections of music and repeating them over and over. Eloise Phillips was one of my teachers, and she taught me how to play tenths, fifths, and chords and fifths, tenths and fifths when I was about 13. So I came home in between the 2 weeks of music school at Cumberland Valley in Lebanon, and I sat and did 10th, 5th, octave, 5th, because what I did was I sat there and just did that one thing and that one motion, and I looked at the hand-eye coordination as I was doing it, and then the consistency of me doing that over a period of just a week or two invited me to say, oh, hey, I can do this. I can add this in a song. But doing certain things in songs that are difficult for you, going back to that one measure that you absolutely hate. And I have students that'll say this, I get really good down to this one measure, and then, I just skip that measure and go on. And I'm like, this is the measure we're going to work on today. We're working on this measure today. I had that happen on Thursday this past week. So I'm like, okay, fine. We're going to work that measure. So hang
on real quick. That's kind of like, I've had some theological discussions with some people, and I'm like, well, what about such and such scripture? Oh, there's some that we just skip over. No,
right.
You can't skip a measure, student. That's hilarious.
Yeah. I want to say this really quickly about Figure If You Don't Care. I'm a PK kid. I was certainly constantly thrown into situations and instances to be in season and out. Daddy would preach a revival in the middle of a sermon, say, come on up, we're going to sing this song. Much of the time, I had no idea what we were going to sing and that we were actually going to sing. So being in front of people has just been part of my life. But I do have students that are terrified to play even in front of me. And I'm that way with my teacher. Exactly. I was that way with Jeff. Right. But Jeff was such a gift in my life. He would sit in this chair that I'm sitting in right now, and he would just cross his legs and throw his keys up on the thing and say, just wow, I wouldn't change a thing. And then sometimes he would, when I would get stuck, I'd say, okay, I need something here. And one day he just gave me 4 notes to fix a song. And so I morphed that into a chord, being the chord freak that I am. And I still play that song, and I love that song. But in our bathroom, I have an expo marker, okay? I use our mirror, and I write scripture on it each time, each month. So every time I walk by it, naturally, I'm gonna read what I wrote. I did this with my girls as they were growing up to help them memorize scripture to hide in their hearts. But the scriptures you need to go to when you're sitting at the piano, And I've sat at the piano and I've cried too, working on stuff. But if you'll think about Joshua 1:9, be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. He's with us. And Proverbs 3:5-6, if we trust in the Lord with all our heart, lean not into thy own understandings, and in all of thy ways. You have to do it in all thy ways, not just part. You got to do it in the mastering technique. You got to do it in the scales and friends. You got to acknowledge in every way. You got to do it in sitting down with those theory books and writing it out and doing it. I was at the hospital last week and waited for a little while for my B to go visit somebody. And I took my theory book and I sat there, and in all my ways, I was acknowledging the theory of it all. And God's going to direct that path. All that to say, Jesus is the only perfect one. So when I'm determined to do my very best at the night that I played last year at Charles Novell, and knees were knocking, but this song that I played, it spoke to my heart, and I'm determined to do my very best for an audience of one.
Right.
If I change my focus from who's in the room or the venue or the church or FaceTime it as it happens to be with my teacher, which is horizontal, and change to vertical playing, then even when I'm rehearsing, it lessens the anxiety and the anxiousness and nervousness. When I can accomplish doing that, I can be poured out by his hand and not my own, which leads to some people coming up to me saying, I was truly best while you're playing. Or when I do a lot of sing play, play and sing at the same time. The gifts for us, they're not to showboat around. It's to edify Christ and him crucified. So when you have the right motive, you'll be able to do the technique. You'll be able to do and learn the complicated memorization parts of songs that are hounding you and seemingly keeping you from being able to be successful. And being humble with the gift that God has given you is going to result in a successful path that God laid out for your life. Getting on that potter's wheel with the right motive will enable you to draw closer to him, and ask God for wisdom and discernment with your gift. It's going to help you not to focus so much on being perfect. I want to do exact work and be excellent in what I try to do. But anytime I have the privilege to sit at any piano or sing and play, the motive should not be perfection. The motive is to serve the Lord. And so all of that to say, and I've been wordy a lot today, I get excited when I have the opportunity to talk about, things like we talked about, memorization and fear, and because I deal with those, technique. I deal with all of that. I'm 56 years old. I've been playing since I was 2 or 3 years old, but it's still something that I ask for discernment. I ask for wisdom, and then I have to sit down, and you have to do the work. You have to be willing to do the work. There's a lot of people that say to me, "Oh, I wish I could play like that." And I look straight at them. I say, "You can." And they'll come take a few lessons from me. Then they realize, I have to think in order to do this skill set. I have to study in order to understand what it is that I'm doing inside this skill set. And then I have to be willing to put myself out there in front of other people to play so that God can use me in what it is he's gifted me to do, whether it's singing or whether it's playing. And if you're not willing to put the work in, and you're not willing to sit down on the potter's wheel and allow God to put in you what it is that he wants in you so he can pour it out at his given time, then you'll be remiss in following what God has for you to do. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Dana, it comes back down, and I quoted this dozens of times in CNS 23, Isaiah 119. If you're willing and obedient, and you can't be one without the other, and then expect the rest of the scripture, which is you'll eat from the best of the land. If you're willing and obedient, you're going to have success. And my dad would tell me, Manny, numerous times, Robbie, if you want it bad enough, you're gonna go get it. It's that simple. He said, you have to roll your sleeves up and do the work. And I had I had someone tell me last year that I've not had to work for anything to get to the level I've got to in my
Oh,
music.
wow.
That it was
That's a wrong motive.
handed to me on a silver platter because of who I am and my last name. And look,
Hmm.
man, yeah, absolutely. The last name has opened doors for me, being a Novell, but at the same time, Dana, if a door opens and you walk in that room and you're not qualified to be in that room, you're gonna have to turn around and walk right back out. And
Hmm.
so I know the work I've put in, and that's rewarding for me when with some of the things that I have achieved, but I am nowhere close to what I want to do for the Lord. Nowhere close.
Agreed.
Nowhere
Agreed. I'm
close.
the same boat.
Man, I knew this was going to be good today, but what I appreciate about you, because God showed me three things, Dana, about our staff at CNS on Wednesday of CNS 23. He showed very visually showed me three things. I've been going to that campus at Murray State University my entire life. There's not a day during that week that we're there that I don't see a building or a street sign or a logo and my memory not go back to one of those 50 plus years.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
this past year, God showed me why I saw the staff that my dad always centered around himself. He showed me why my dad had those people in place, and it was three parts. You check all three boxes. The first is number one, he needed to know their spiritual walk was at the place that it could benefit our students. That's priority number one. Number two, we're a school of music, so they needed to be qualified to teach music. So you check the first two boxes. The third one is this. It had to be a person that my dad could trust to be in a room that he physically could not be in and know that the learning was going forth, but also know that the things weren't going to be said that would jeopardize the school or the reputation of our school. So it had to be someone that he knew their spiritual walk, he knew their level of expertise musically. Number three, he needed to trust them. And man, God clearly told me, Robbie, you need to follow that same pattern. And you check all three of those boxes. What the biggest part, I love the teaching that's going forth today, but the biggest part that I love is you did it by sharing it through your heart. And in what we do out of any genre of music, we are truly the only one that should be first and foremost doing it from our heart, because the one we're doing it for and the one we're trying to point other people to is in the heart business. He's in changing. Yes. He's in changing and inhabiting hearts. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for your teaching. Thank you for your heart. We love you, Dana. And listen, everybody, if you'll take these things that Dana shared with you today, if you will apply them to your music, you're going to find out that it's going to make this become what? Your best day yet. You all be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Charles Novell School of Music podcast, The Best Day Yet. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under the name the Charles Novell School of Music. And for more information on CNS and our upcoming events, like our online school, our weekend regional sessions, our creative coaching, and our pastor's retreat, you can visit us at our website at www.cnsmusic.com. As you've listened to this episode, we hope that you've gained some information that you can apply to your music and to your ministry to make today the best day yet.